another founder Wisdom Pod with someone that's quite interesting. Her name is Manodyna KH. Manodyna KH. So you can find her around that handle on LinkedIn. She's the co-founder at Bolt Code. She's super young, super ambitious, super smart. Glad to have her on. Podcast brought to you by podfire.com. Before we start, if you want to start, scale, or be invited to podcasts like this one, talk to folks like Mano here or Dina. Should I call you Mano or Dina? What do you prefer, Mano?
Whatever you would.
Dina,
Whatever
I prefer. Mano means hands in Spanish, by the way. Glad to have you on. Can you introduce yourself? Tell us a bit more about Bolt Code.
So I am the founder at Bolt Code, and Bolt Code is building an AI-first end-to-end human capital management solution. So when we started out at Bolt Code, we realized that we have a lot of SaaS solutions in the entire human capital management pipeline. And there's a lot of SaaS fatigue. Come on, you really have one product for shortlisting candidates, another product for interviewing them, another for creating coding tests, and then your leave management is another product in itself. And all of these are not integrated. So imagine an organization of say 100 or 200 people, and they can't really afford to use 8, 10 different products just to manage their HCM pipeline. So what we want to build is a very lean AI first solution to automate or like semi-automate this entire pipeline and have an end-to-end solution which is easy for users to use. We believe that if you have to go through a demo or a guide to understand the interface of a product, then the product is too complex for you to use.
It's a very cool product. Good idea. Relevance. Okay, let's start with that one. You feel that recruitment will be relevant for a while? Like, am I not incentivized to just hire AIs and bots instead of humans?
I think although AI and bots are at a very high level of advancement, as somebody who's very closely worked with large language models in the last 1 year, I think there's still a lot of time before you can fully replace humans with AI. Maybe AI can be a co-pilot, but it cannot be a developer.
Interesting. Yeah, I do agree. So you'd have a nice little window. I interviewed a guy a week ago, a Sri Lankan. He's building a video platform for interviews, a SaaS. That was last week. So your idea is to have an end-to-end tool. So that's quite ambitious, right? Because end-to-end is how the lead enters, how it's classified, how it's reactivated, so sort of a CRM, and how it's converted. And if it doesn't convert for that one, we'll keep the lead in the CRM and track what's up with his career and see if he's still open to work at my company. What would be the AI role into all of this? How could you make it like easy as butter for me, almost like magic?
We spoke to a lot of hiring managers and HRs. It was a small survey that we conducted. A couple of C-suite executives were in our survey. So the first thing you have is your HR guys, they don't understand tech. So you have to create a job description they don't really understand. And our hiring managers would send them a very brief JD, or rather just the experience, skills, and what they need. So right from creating your job description, a 500-page job description, a 500-word job description, which can go on to different job boards, you would be using generative AI or large language models there. Your interviews can be automated where instead of having a human take interviews for hours on end, multiple rounds, multiple candidates, we can have an AI take the interview instead of humans. So all that our recruiting manager has to see instead of having to interview 10, 20 people a day is 10, 20 transcripts of interviews, which would take him around 30 seconds per transcript to read and a skill summary of every candidate. Another thing we feel can be done is AI-based resume matching. So instead of recruiting managers having to read through 100, 200 resumes per day, we can have an AI read these resumes for them. Apart from this, something that we did observe is we have a lot of AI-based tools, right? HRs during the entire onboarding and pre-onboarding phase, are bombarded with a lot of questions over email, and it takes them a lot of time. So deploy a HR-based chatbot, which can be used throughout the employee life cycle in the company, where for anonymous feedback or pre-onboarding questions, we could be using our HR-based chatbot. And the beauty of this product is if we were, say, 4 different products, you would have to pay for 4 different products and deploy 4 different chatbots, and we know how expensive that can get. But our beauty is we can use a single chatbot across the entire employee life cycle.
One chatbot for who? For the employee or for the company?
One chatbot for the company, the same chatbot can conduct interviews, handle candidate questions, handle anonymous feedback, anonymous surveys. Instead of 4 instances of a chatbot, you can have a single one.
So, your thesis there is that people are using ChatGPT quite a lot nowadays and would be comfortable with chatting with the bots. And how much products would you deploy there? Because it seems like a lot. There'd be a CRM, there would be a chatbot. How many suites of products you want to develop, and which one would come first in the roadmap?
Our first product in our roadmap right now is programmatic job distribution, where you publish a job once and it's published to multiple job boards programmatically, and give them a single dashboard to view all of these incoming jobs. And after programmatic job distribution, another very, let's say, pressing problem in the economy that we saw was that we have boot camps, coding boot camps here, and we have a lot of colleges. And if you were to hire directly from colleges or boot camps or subcontractors, we don't have a organized pipeline. So we thought we will create exclusive job boards for universities and boot camps. So the hiring manager, with a single click, can publish to different universities and boot camps for his requirements. That was our second product, or the second part of our product. The third one would obviously be automated and asynchronous interviews. That is something we hold very dear, and an online coding assessment.
All right, pretty ambitious. So bolt code, you're kind of leaving it on the side, if I'm understanding.
I didn't quite get you.
Yeah, your first startup, right? Bolt code. You're leaving that one to focus on that new HR one. Is that what you're doing?
No, when we started Bolt Code, we thought we will have an integrated learning management system in the HRMS. And we thought that the LMS is extremely painful to build, and we just built a POC. The integration of the LMS and the HRMS should be coming in the next 1 year or so.
So what are you gonna do with bulk code, which is like a video slash course slash classes for coding language platform? What will happen to that one?
We are going to gradually integrate it into our own platform. So another problem that we found when we spoke to a lot of people is you don't have an integrated learning management system with your HR management system. So there's no skill taxonomy as such. You have a couple of developers who have a bunch of skills, and you don't know that they have those skills or that they're learning those skills on the side. You end up hiring a bunch of other people, and the cycle continues, and there's a lot of waste of resources. So we want to have an organization-wide skill taxonomy and have that tightly integrated with the learning management system so that it becomes easier for managers to look at the skill sets of their teams.
Right. Tell me about like your story, your life story. Like, why are you so ambitious and smart? And also get to the point of starting your startups and burning out, because that was a fun, well, not fun, but insightful story.
I think I grew up pretty ambitious, and I come from a family with overachievers, let's say. And everybody here is either a master's or a PhD. Most people in my family are PhDs, and when you're growing up in a family like that, you have a lot of exposure. And with people in the industry who are there to back you and support you, you become. It's just that I come with some amount of generational privilege, and I like to acknowledge that sometimes. And that is when I thought maybe I could start up. And it's easier to start up when you're, say, 20 than when you have house EMIs and rent to pay.
Would you be the first in the family to start up? Because they're in academia, right? Or
Actually,
also did they have businesses?
my uncle runs his own business around 20 meters from where I live. He is into health tech.
So he was your inspiration, right?
Kind of. And then dad also tried his hand at agri-tech startup a couple of years ago. Maybe a little too early for the market.
Because what I
So
see in kids and parents of yeah, and kids of overachievers, I see burnout, yes, because I see lots of pressure building up, and sometimes it's hard to achieve what your parents did or meet their expectations, right? My dad, he's an entrepreneur, so successful in his own right, right? He always gave me like a good liberty, and I think that gave me like serotonin shots to try to outachieve him, quote unquote. It made it easy for me, so I never had that pressure. But I could have gone in the wrong direction, right? Because I didn't get much. How do you say? Like a box in which like I was told that I could play. But being the libertarian that I am, I think that played for me. I think like at first I didn't have much pressure to carry. Obviously, I live in a system in which there were already pressure, right? With like students and teachers and my friends, which were really good at sports and so forth. But yeah, I think I'm gonna turn out like pretty good. Financially, happiness wise, like I've always been happy. Do you think it's a good thing for parents to put pressure on their children's and what is the equilibrium there to ensure that they grow to be happy and to be successful?
honestly, at home, there was not much pressure. Most of the pressure comes from the environment you grow up in. And even today, if I do decide to step back from board code, I have all the liberty to do so, and I have a safety net. And I think I'm incredibly grateful to have had that safety net.
So okay, your environment, did you go to a top university? Like how do you feel the pressure there?
I don't really call it a top university, but tier two in the country. The top 2,000 people who write the entrance test get in. And it's difficult to get in, just
Okay,
saying.
top 2000 out of 100K.
Yes, roughly 100K.
Well, that's a lot of pressure right there. That's 2%.
It's 2%.
So
And
meaning you'll have to crush 80, 98 of your peers like you.
call it crushing them, it's just outdoing them probably for my course. When you get into a university like that, you have a lot of people who are also overachievers like you. I wouldn't really use the term overachievers, but all of us have worked our
But did they start startups or are they just good at school?
so we have a very vibrant startup ecosystem in my college. And every year there are around 8, 10 startups coming out. A lot of people are more focused on campus placements where, let's say, the money is very tempting.
And tell me about the burnout, like how it happened, why, and the lessons that you learned from it.
Maybe if I were to speak about burning out, then I think it's about putting a little too much pressure on yourself and trying to, outdo yourself every day. And one fine day you realize that, hey, I'm not sleeping enough, I'm missing all my meals. And I think that's when you realize I need to stop, take a break, and come back.
But isn't it like something psychological? Because I mean, I don't sleep that much nowadays. I'm in hustle mode, still super happy. I think it's more of a psychological thing when you have your demons constantly repeating to you that you're gonna fail and you're not good and you're not enough. and you have all these debts, you have all these people that are stressing you out, you know? Is that a better description of it?
Maybe that could be a good description, but stress causes burnout. And I think as founders, we need to learn how to manage stress. There's no avoiding stress.
How do you manage your stress?
I sketch normally, or I
That's
cook.
good. That's good again. What else did you learn from that phase of your life? Because I've never heard of someone burning out so early.
That phase of my life just taught me that you can't be perfect. And maybe you should accept your imperfections.
Right. Because I see,
And,
I, what, yeah, go ahead.
and it also taught me that there are only so many things you can do. You cannot be doing three things at the same time and trying to excel at all of them.
Very true. Because another theme that I'm seeing here is that maybe you tried to apply what made you successful in academia to startups, and maybe the outcomes were totally different. Am I right or wrong here?
Um, I don't consider myself successful in academia.
2% acceptance rate. I got
Or
refused in programs that have a 10% acceptance rate.
when I did join college, I thought I will have that perfect GPA. But again, I decided not to stress myself out there. And my GPA is, let's say, fair to good, bordering on good. And that's about academia, because there have been times when I sat in class and did work, which was clearly not classwork, and it was fine.
Right. Because I mean, if your families are masters and PhDs, you must be feeling that you need to get some of that, right? And even last time we spoke, I was like, yeah, drop out of school, you know? Well, that must feel offensive to your parents. My dad, he has a master's as well. I think he's like very easygoing and libertarian, but pretty sure he wouldn't feel nice about me saying that his master's ain't worth shit, or a PhD, matter of fact. Actually, PhD will get the doctor title, right? Um, and I mean, yeah, it is offensive in their reality, but the new world is that you don't need any of that to be successful. I also think that school is bullshit. In your case, I can potentially see that you had high expectations with startups. Startups is like you try 100 times, you'll maybe have three success, right? School,
I
school.
think we had three pivots in the last 3 years.
There you go. And that's not a lot, by the way. I've had like thousands of pivots. It's constantly testing out things and seeing what sticks. You know, I mean, I use cold email, for example, to see what service or product is good or fitting with what's part of the market. And I deploy 5 campaigns a day. Been doing that for the past 3 years. That's thousands of campaigns, plus the ones that I do for my clients. Anyway, the point I was getting to is that school, what I don't like about the educational system is that, oh, you fail or you make it, you know? While in startup world, failure is default, you know? I still remember the feeling of getting a bad grade in school. That never feels nice, you know? I still have nightmares about it. I still dream of being in class and failing an exam. What happens if I'm not accepted there? You know, it's really like it's directly in the heart, you know, it's like, oh, you're not enough, you're not good, you're not like the others, you know. I think the educational system should have us start a business at 8 years old, make money, get in the market, pivot 1,000 times. Most importantly, learn to embrace failure, not to feel like you're winning when you're losing, right? That's different, but just expect it. While school, it's like one exam every quarter. And if you fail, you fail. If you get it, you get it. What do you think about that?
I think, yes, the education system is kind of flawed, but what I learned through my degree, I carry it with me every day right now. I think maybe having to write code physically on a paper was, let's say, not the most satisfying experience, but learning how to migrate a database, it comes in handy. It's something you would do probably once in your life, but knowing how things work behind the scenes, it's useful. Yes, exams were flawed, but that assignment where you had to build something from scratch, it teaches you a lot of things. These group assignments that we all normally complain about, it teaches you so many things about people management. And that stupid assignment where you had to write a 10-page document, maybe it's useful when you have to document your code. Yes, I'm against the current system of testing out people's skills because my memory in an examination may not be an accurate description of how well I know my subject, but learning something from the ground up, from how it was built and why it was built the way it was built, it comes in handy sometimes.
It's an idiot systems, like follow a teacher that was educated to teach and never really accomplished much in their lives. If I'm gonna sit on a chair listening to someone, you're gonna have to pay me.
Oh, I
Like,
hate listening to certain classes. I used to hate them.
and I think the future is also like every student will have a GPT, right? That's pretty logic. Like that can answer my question. That can, yeah, like help me build a business, make cash. It's like it would be run like a company. What are your KPIs? What did you accomplish? And it would be directly linked to the market. I just don't know why us humans thought that it would be smart to have someone sit on a chair for 15 years of their lives, destroying the economy. And now with ChatGPT and all of that, like you're gonna have these poor student wait for 15 years of their life before entering the market and competing against super intelligent AIs. Do you think about that future?
I didn't think about that future. As software developers, we are always on the edge. And as somebody who is, when I say intimately worked with large language models in generative AI in the last year, I think that future is far off and you can't really have AI replace humans anytime soon. And your AI is still not at that point where it's smart enough to understand things. It can be your co-pilot, but you can't outsource everything to AI. I have seen a lot of people to try and get ChatGPT write their assignments for them, but if you don't know the subject, you have no clue what's being generated, and you don't know how to help yourself with the AI. I think knowing how it can help you is a very important part of getting it to help you.
I'll take the other side of that bet. And I'm 95% confidence in that bet. I manage multiple employees, and I will tell you, GPT is smarter than most of them. Um, from a basic facts perspective, it understands better than humans what I mean. If I type something, the human will reply, "Can you explain this?" GPT will understand. So and there's like too much smart people in one room working on the problem for us not to be confident about like having an agent that can be independent and act on your behalf. I think we're very, very near that. And a charles a charles version in less than 3 years, I'm gonna have a GPT that will be equal, if not better than the Charles that's speaking to you right now. In terms of execution, in terms of conducting podcasts, in terms of asking better questions, in terms of showing better EQ, it's gonna happen. You can take the other side. We can bet money on it if you want, or shares of your startup.
Um, I don't know. The other side was something I was really interested in. I think 6 months ago, I was looking at conscious language models.
Yeah, what's up with that? Conscious models. Tell me.
Again, there have been attempts to make models conscious, but it'll take time. I would give it 8, 10 years at the minimum. And with
What
the
is consciousness?
um, consciousness, like certain researchers like to define it, is when the AI can understand emotions. Right now, most of our language models are highly statistical. You have a set of tokens, it looks at the probabilities of these tokens, generates the new set of tokens. It doesn't really think in our classical sense, the Socratic sense of thinking or understanding.
Don't we think in similar ways? I mean, we have neurons, they fire in pathways and they probabilistically go in some direction depending on how much calcium deposit there is in that place. So isn't that probabilistically thinking?
Not really. When you think something or when you have to say something, it's based on a lot of, say, past experience. You have a long-term memory, you have a short-term memory, and you have stimulus, and you act on all of that. But a language model doesn't really have a stimulus. It has a prompt in its place. It doesn't have memory. It doesn't have a global workspace where it stores memory
It
and
does have
stimulus. And
that. It does
it
have
doesn't.
memory.
It just has a bunch of weights. Doesn't have memory per se.
But can that be a synonym to memory? To remember the
Not
questions you asked it, how it answered, that seems pretty basic memory to me.
That's very basic. It doesn't have the kind of memory we have. So we have something called a long-term memory, and most AI systems don't have a very robust long-term memory right now.
I think it's pretty easy for them to have a long-term memory. Well, not easy peasy. Like it's quite hard what they do in the back end of that, but I don't see much difference. And plus the consciousness thing, I think it's biochemical illusion of ours. It's not that fascinating or complex, I believe. It's just another illusion of the brain, this powerful technology. Just like when we manifest, quote unquote, stuff, we visualize stuff, and it happens. Similar mechanism, double blind slash placebo effect. We
Maybe
project stuff.
I think the work of Bernard J. Bars on consciousness, it's pretty interesting.
Okay.
If
Bernard G.
Bars, BAARS.
Okay. I'll check him. I'll check him out. Consciousness, right? Interesting times. Dina, thank you for showing up today. It's 11:11 right now, so make a wish. Where can people find out more about you?
I think my LinkedIn.
Which would be Manodyna KH. And I am Charles Cormier, your host of founderwisdompodcast.com. And that was Mano, mesdames et messieurs.